One, it's a part of Smooth Breakfast with Ayo Mairo Ese.
And Kayode Baker. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning. And of course, we've got a very special guest in the studio. But before we introduce who our guest today, this morning is, you can reach out to us on WhatsApp to be part of our conversation. On WhatsApp, as always, it's 0809 to be part of the conversation. Also, we're streaming live on YouTube. You can check out the YouTube page. It's youtube.com/smooth 981FM. And finally, your messages also come to Twitter, where it's smooth981FM with the hashtag freshlypressed981.
That's right. And joining us for the conversation this morning, we have the birthday boy from over the weekend. Happy birthday, Wade. Wade's birthday was on Saturday. Good morning.
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Kayode. Good morning, Ayo. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Wade. Happy birthday.
Wade is at Ring Nigeria on Twitter. Please go on there to wish him a happy birthday. And then we have Tunde Okufi. Tunde Okufi at Big Cooks on Twitter. Good morning.
Morning, Ayo, and morning, Kayode.
Thank you very much. And we have Ugo Dre on a Monday morning. Good morning, Ugo.
Hey, morning everybody. You're owing also. It's not just to say happy birthday.
Let's wait for the big one next year.
Yeah, oh, nice. He did the needful anyway. So Ugo is at Ugo Dre on Twitter, so please follow him there as well. And let's go on to our first story for this morning. We move on to Guardian newspaper for this one. We have that 50 civil society groups, including the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, CDHR, Media Rights Agenda, and Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, have written the United Nations and the African Union over the continued detention of the organizer of #Revolution Now protest, Omoyele Sowore, by the federal government. Tunde, please take us through this, but just before you do, can I give a little background, or would you be doing that? All right, so the detention order was initially issued by Justice Taiwo on August 8th. It was to hold the activists to hold the activists to conclude investigations. And then September 24, he was granted bail by Justice Taiwo. He hasn't been released since September 24, despite meeting the conditions of bail. So now this is what we have here. A number of people have reacted to this story.
And I guess that they would say, the secret police, as I described, will say they haven't concluded their investigations, is why they can't let him go. But the truth is, it shouldn't and it can't go on in perpetuity. Like 50 civil society groups have written to the United Nations, and you can only almost like thank them, because the civil society groups pick up a lot of the slack. Yeah, they pick up the slack for the gap in institutions. We have very weak structures and institutions, and even when we do, because it's not like this is lacking here. It's not like the judiciary is missing or the court system is missing. So even when we do have institutions, we undermine them, we don't respect them, and we don't regard them. They're subsisting. The court has made a judgment. You can't hold. The law says you can't hold someone in perpetuity, really, to be honest. But the law under which they're holding him, you remember, it's a 2013 act, counter-terrorism.
Yes.
And we all know that post 9/11, a lot of nations, including the liberal West, introduced a bunch of laws that gave governments a lot more powers to hold people when they believe those individuals are a threat. Now, the only difference between there and here is that we have the opportunity for people to extend its application to people that would ordinarily be described as political rivals. Remember that Chido was involved or participated in the last presidential election, so he can be looked as a political opponent, and laws that are being instituted to safeguard the nation are being extended. And now we look at, I really feel for him. You can debate what revolution means here, there, and as long as you want. Part of the charge is that he insulted the presidency. Just to remind ourselves, but democracies are different across the world. Maybe we were taking into consideration cultural context, but I haven't seen it. Maybe exactly, but I guess we are building our own, to be honest, because I haven't seen anywhere else where insulting, a sitting leader is an offense tantamount to imprisonment and being detained, to be honest. Now, the debates on what revolution stands for or not is, it can be debated, but the law is clear. You need to prove a case against him or let him go, or at least, honor his bail, and he's met those conditions, and that hasn't happened. I really do feel for him, because, to predict what a person would do, you have to look at the antecedents. Now, let's look at the antecedents of this government. We all know how long Zaki was held and detained for, and probably still is. There's Dasuki, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? So you really don't need to gaze into crystal ball or a soothsayer to tell you that Sowore is in for quite a long run.
Well, we're hoping not, because the president last week had said that he would respect the rule of law. I don't know if you remember a report that
He
come
says that
out
all the
saying
time. He says it all the time.
And another thing, with regards to antecedents, again, isn't it a bit concerning or worrying that one doesn't know what could put you in prison, as it were?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
for instance, you mentioned insulting the Nigerian leader.
Yeah. Which is typical of what people describe as banana republics, where you have weak institutions and institutions you have are not respected. Now, and this is not even in defense of what Sowore did or did not do, right? We're just talking about the rule of law. And if you want if you don't just think about the greater good.
Yes.
If the court is ruled in a certain way, honor the courts, follow the process. If you feel that you still have a case against him, then you can pick him up again. Isn't it instructive that Sowore is described as, and in the story as well, as a pro-democracy campaigner? Is it not instructive that a pro-democracy campaigner is being held within a democracy? It gives an indication of the state of things.
Very true. Thank you so much, Tunde. Comrade Henry on WhatsApp said, "It is sad that a country that preaches rule of law abroad is disobeying court orders locally. The same court would grant her request to detain her citizen, would also order her to release him, but the latter order would be obeyed. Let us not be selective in the order we are to obey or not." Thank you. All right, let's move on to our next story, Wade. Why I was arrested, Chido Onumah. Another arrest. However, thankfully, he's been released 5 hours after he was picked up at the airport upon his arrival from Europe. The man in question is Chido Onumah, an activist and author of the book We Are All Biafrans. Can you please take us through the story?
This story is very interesting, and just taking from what Tunde said, it's amazing how wearing a T-shirt that you're publicizing your book turns out to cause disaffection amongst people, which is why he was arrested. Technically, he was wearing a T-shirt. What happened to the freedom of expression in Nigeria? It's the same way Sowore has been locked up for God knows how long. Not to talk about that Dasuki Elzazaki. And this guy could have gone the same way, because you say he was wearing a T-shirt, We Are All Biafrans. What happened to proper intelligence being done to find out who exactly this person is? Or even when you accost him and ask him, what was he for? You pick him up and keep him for 5 hours and detain him for 5 hours. Someone who's just coming in from a trip, The antagonism on journalists today in this country is increasing every day. In Imo State, the last time, or was it? I can't remember which state that we spoke about a month ago. The man wrote a blog criticizing the governor. He said he insulted him, and then they arrested him. So it's like maybe we're living in a banana republic, as the case may be.
We want to believe not, because again, a number of people are still hopeful of Nigeria achieving a true democracy. However, your point is well noted.
When a government continues to flout the rule of law, then you find out that the justice system just doesn't work, and people tend to forget that. Or you will be on the other side the next time, and what happens? Who is going to complain on your behalf? Let's get these institutions and these systems working properly.
Alrighty. Ironically, the book We Are All Biafrans is a collection of essays by the journalist focused on the need to restructure Nigeria in order to be able to build a united country. So probably when they found out what he was about, that's why he was released. All right, let's move on to our next story, Ugo. Southern Middle Belt leaders demand explanation on Osinbajo from Presidency. Interesting story here. So Southern and Middle Belt leaders have demanded explanation from the Presidency on the seeming clampdown. Again, I repeat, seeming clampdown on the person and office of Vice President Osinbajo in recent times. Please take us through the story.
Very interesting story, Mario, like you mentioned. So this is a story on Thisday. So they call themselves SMBLF, of course, a committee of leaders, and they're apparently weighing into the issues that everybody thinks the vice president is going through. And let me just,
operating word didn't think.
Yeah, everybody thinks. Yeah, exactly. So let me just take, listeners through, how all this started. I think it started with there was a directive a few weeks ago that said the vice president, the ministers should now start to report directly to to communicate through the chief of staff if they wanted to get to the president, and everybody felt like we thought that it was typically through the vice president, whereas government came out and said, look, it's just normal stuff. You have to go through the chief of staff if you wanted to see the president, which is how it's practiced, I guess, perhaps in the West. And then subsequently, there was now this Economic Advisory Council that came out, and everybody thought that they were basically, going to knock off the the Economic Council that is headed by the vice president. And of course, the vice president came out and said, look, they are the authentic ones. They're the ones that are approved by law, and that's the council that has governors, ministers, and whatever, and he chairs that council. So people, and then of course that set the rumor mill going. And then there was this other one again about presidential approval for parastatals that the vice president chairs, and then that the vice president was supposed to go directly to the president to get approvals for anything under the parastatals that is heading. So these are the issues. And of course, there was this rumor again from someone in PDP saying that the vice president had probably embezzled about 90 billion and blah. So these are all the issues that we're seeing. And now, as you would expect, politicians are circling in. And whether these things are some kind of conspiracy or just coincidences, you'd always expect politicians to take advantage of whatever the situation is. And some are alluding that, it's 2023 permutations, and they are trying to, first of all, blacklist the guy, just make him look, bad, so that if he's even conceiving or thinking of running, let him just even forget it. Now, but back to the SMBLF, they are claiming that, look, this is not the first time this is happening to Southern presidents. And interestingly, they brought up Ebutu Ikue, and remember, how he was also, pushed aside. I think that was under Babangida, and then Dia under Abacha. We all, remember that cool story. And then GEJ as well. It was kind of maligned under Yar'Adua, and they're saying, look, why is it that this is always happening? It's kind of strange though, because one thing I always tell people, be very careful with politicians, right? Politicians would always, tilt towards tribal sentiments. Nobody talks about any political ideology. Our politicians don't have any ideology at all. A lot of the guys who are now making noise and trying to defend the vice president are also guys who were against him, who basically supported the opposition party. So you're wondering, like, allow him carry his cross. He's the vice president. He campaigned with Buhari and co. Yeah. So if he has any issues with them, let him deal with. Why are you making this a north-south issue and trying to just heat up the politics? Allow them deal with their issues, right? And that's what I keep saying. These leaders, so-called leaders we have, if only we had some sense of political ideology in Nigeria, I think things would be better, because then it will be the issues we're talking about and not whether somebody's from the north or from the south.
Thank you very much, Ugo. Right, a few more comments here. Chika Gina from Marina says, I'm sad this morning, not because of the many challenges bedeviling Nigeria. I'm sad that one of the most fundamental institutions that should checkmate the state is at the mercy of the state. Thanks, Chika, for your comments. We have a few more comments on Twitter.
On Twitter, this one from Emeka says that if it isn't the height of hypocrisy, then I don't know what it is. Those in government should practice what they preach.
All right, thank you very much, Emeka. We move on to our next story. Wade, back to you. Court orders Malami, EFCC to publish seized Maina's properties. So, Federal High Court in Lagos has granted the request of the registered trustees of the Center for Law and Civil Culture for the judicial review of an order of mandamus compelling the Attorney General of the Federation, Malami, and the EFCC to publish the properties recovered from former chairman of Pension Reform Task Force, Abdul Rashid Maina. Very short story.
Very, very short story, but very interesting story.
Yeah.
Good move by the Center for Law and Civil Culture. It's amazing that a government that came in on the basis of fighting corruption and have told us that they've seized so much assets or money and they promised to publish them for the last 5 years, have not published it. So I don't know if a government that doesn't even listen to court orders, or I'm not sure they're going to publish this. That's my own opinion, but it's a good move. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've heard so many things about seized assets, about monies returned. We're going to publish the names of the people, but we've never seen one publication. We don't even know who these people are. So how do we now know that they would do the same thing? Allegedly, his assets have been seized. Which assets are we talking about? The same person who was brought back into government. It's amazing that I maybe, and the word keeps coming back to my head. Are we living in a banana republic? Really? And it's sad this morning. And like the last person said, it's sad. It's really, really sad for this country.
All right, thank you very much for that one. We have messages coming in. This one here from EK says, your analysis on Osinbajo is spot on. He should be allowed to carry his cross in peace. All right, let's move on to our next story, and this comes to you, Ugo Dre. It says here from the New Telegraph, illicit financial flows. We lost $157.5 billion under former Presidents Olusegun Obasanjo, the late Umar Yar'Adua, and also Goodluck Jonathan when they were presidents. And they were all elected under the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Like I mentioned, this comes from the New Telegraph. Ugo Dre, what are your thoughts about it?
So let's be careful again before these guys start to politicize these things. This is coming off a report from the Global Financial Integrity Report, and it's actually a report that I think was released recently, but as at 2015. So it's not like it's it's covered 2016, 17, 18, 19. So it makes it look like this is corruption under the previous government. So we don't know what has happened, over the last 5 years. But in be that as it may, we all know that we've seen corruption at different levels since democracy came to being in Nigeria in 1999. And so Buhari was making this statement at an event at the African organized by the African Union Development Agency. Abroad. Abroad.
It doesn't speak to us in Nigeria.
Hardly talks here anyway. So and he was saying that look, if only the international community can help stop illicit flow of funds outside Nigeria and other developing countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, then a lot of this money can be retained here, and then we can use it to develop the country. But the interesting thing is that a lot of the guys who actually also move this flow are their friends, politicians like them. So these guys anyway. So I mean, like over since you've been here in the last 4 plus years, how many of them have we been able to convict?
He claimed they've collected some. He hasn't published
how is it up to
he hasn't
$1 billion?
published the names of
exactly.
all the people who stole the money.
And this is $157 billion we're looking at. So the only ones we've been able to recover is the one, peace be unto him, Abacha has saved for us over the years. You know what I mean? And that's the one we seem to be recovering. But 157 billion since 1999 till date. Typically, this should be election rhetoric. This should be reasons why you should actually vote, or not vote president. So look, $157 billion. We will hold you to account by how much of this money you're able to recover for Nigeria.
But he was voted on the premise of his fight against corruption. I think that's war.
Yeah.
So maybe I should ask you, how well has he done in the past 4 years?
I
think it's more his stand. Let's differentiate his stand
from his actions.
From actions. Yeah. So his stand is clear.
Yeah.
About how successful have they been, or especially when people say, look at your inner circle as well.
And that's really where the challenge is, because you don't really see, like when you see a president that is actually for corruption or to fight corruption, it's not just about mentioning it or you trying to stand like you're an incorruptible person. It's basically what you're doing. How many people have you been able to convict? How swiftly are you doing this? What kind of even within your inner circles, like you just alluded to now with Maina, what have you done to them? So that's not what we have seen, and that's why Nigerians don't actually believe this corruption trial.
And to be talking about what he's going to address, he's telling the international community, well, yes, they are complicit, but guess what? It's a lot better now, and they have put in a lot of laws. Again, post 9/11, so they're not doing it for out of altruistic or benevolent reasons, but they realize that when money is allowed to flow illicitly, often it will end up in the hands of criminals and terrorists, and it can come back to bite them. So they've really closed down. It's illegal for where in the past it wasn't illegal to pay bribes abroad. and to rub hands, and it's for American citizens and most European countries. It now is. So they've made a lot of changes. They made it a lot harder. You've seen Swiss banks and lots of other cash havens turning back on the requirements for you to stash money in the economy. So a lot has been done, but we also then need to look inwards.
Sean on WhatsApp says you can't have a stance against corruption and still have a cabinet full of indicted officials. What stance is that? Thank you.
That's why it's a stand different from action.
All right, our next story is from the Thisday newspaper. It comes to you Tunde. It says Ordeals in Kaduna, House of Horror by the rescued kids. Now, children who were among the over 400 people rescued from captivity at the Islamic school in Kaduna State have continued to narrate their ordeals in the hands of their captors. And when they spoke with Reuters, some of the 7 victims and 5 parents of the victims, basically talked about how they went through different means of torture and different ordeals in general. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, my initial thought is how it was broken by international news media first, because that's where I initially saw it, a number of them. But anyway, look, children are second-class citizens. It might sound, a lot of people may find that odd to note or realize, but they are second-class citizens even in the developed world, because they have little representation and rights, and they don't vote, right? So it is very easy to take advantage of children and disadvantaged and generally disadvantaged people in society. That's why even in the developed world, in the West, they have specific safeguards and safety nets to protect children. Look, so it's little wonder and that comes at huge expense. Just remember. You have social workers that focus on children. We can barely, pay minimum wage, so you can understand why we can't cover, some of the things and areas that decent society would cover, right? And decent society realizes that you would have abusing adults, and therefore puts safety nets in to watch over the less privileged. It's why it's a recurring cycle. We're talking about children getting abused. We're talking about women getting abused. People of lesser authority and power in society generally, and wherever there is a gap, it will be filled, and it will be filled by institutions like this. There is a reason why this happens in the developing world, Nigeria included. Nigeria is not alone in this, but there is a reason. It's because there's a gap. And since this one is specifically around education, there are huge gaps in education. We have a growing population. The UN estimates that our population will grow from between 190 and 200 million, depending on who you ask, that is today, to over 400 million by 2050. So people get ready. All this one that we're talking about now, imagine when there are 400 million of us, right? It feels like we'll literally be standing on each other's heads. Everything will blow out of proportion, from security, herdsmen, everything, and we don't seem to be planning for it. If you can't, in business, if you can't grow your revenue, reduce your costs.
Okay.
What it would mean in this instance is control birth. When China realized that there's nothing they could do, the economy wasn't growing, when they're done, what do? They say they have one child. Some people had more, but those children are out of the system, right? A different story, but that's a country trying to do something about it. Our population growth is going unfettered, and we're not growing revenue. Huge problem, because we can't even pay for the ones that are in, that we have today. The data says that 10.5 million children between the ages of 5 to 14 are not in school, even though education is, primary school, basic education is supposed to be free. But we've got 10.5 million kids who are out of school. What do you expect happen in situations like this? People will fill the void, and you get people who come and will be unscrupulous, and will abuse them, because parents would send their children to these places because they have nowhere else to send them to, and they're open to abuse. The reports that there's conflict there's a different view as to what the role of the institution is. Is it an Islamic school? Is it a school? Or is it a correctional institution? If you look at the way they treated kids, you would think it was a very bad correctional institution with a lot of physical abuse. The story is full of it.
They called it a house of torture and place of slavery.
And slavery, so the story is full of it. So instead of focusing on it, let's look at the reasons why we arrive in the place where we arrive. And there'll be more of them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that.
I would recommend reading the report. It's very detailed and horrific. Ordeals in Kaduna House of Horror by rescued kids. Thisday newspaper.
Okay, real quick, let's move on to our next story. It comes to you, Ugo Dre, and it's from the Vanguard. It says equity investors may be parting with about 1.83 billion naira monthly in commission and other fees owing to the reinstatement of the value-added tax, basically charges on transactions in the stock market, as well as the proposed 2.5% increase in VAT rate.
So yeah, I won't waste too much time on the story because this one is just grammar. Yes, investing in the stock market will be a bit more expensive because you pay, extra on VAT, just like everybody will for, anything that you're doing. All transactions now, you have to pay 50% more on VAT, than you typically do. But let's not, misconstrue things. This is not the reason why the stock market is doing badly, and I don't think this will even affect the stock market in a negative way like they're making it sound. The stock market is doing badly because foreign investors and mostly, also institutional investors do not like the economic policies of the government or are not confident that the economic policies of the government will work. There's also fear that there might be a devaluation. So these are the things that are disturbing. And of course, some companies as well need to do better at transparency. A lot of, quoted companies are not very transparent, especially with their results. So these are the things that matter. So retail investors don't want to touch the Nigerian Stock Exchange with a system pool. Anyway, so it's not about this VAT, please. So let's not even start a beg.
All right,
Thank you very much for that one. Messages here.
Christian from Apapa says, good morning, guys. What is the role of DSS in combating kidnapping, Boko Haram, and other crimes in Nigeria? You only hear of DSS when anyone expresses his views about Nigeria. And then just a few more comments. Thank you very much indeed for sending them in. A number of people have expressed dissatisfaction, or would I say sadness at the state of what's going on, particularly with the rule of law. Thanks for your comments.
This one from Thisday newspaper comes to Uwade. It says, in major crackdown, customs shot car dealers across Lagos. And I mean, this is a major news for some people. I mean, generally for everyone, even the economy. But what are your thoughts about this?
So many questions come to play. The first question I would ask is, were there any court orders before you went to shut down these places? That's the very first thing. What investigations did you put in place? Because I know quite rightly, I have a few friends who bought cars. Before they even buy the car, one of the things they do is go to the custom portals and check whether the duties have been paid.
Okay.
So if you have that information, why do you wake up one morning and storm a car lot and claim that smuggling, or is because they smuggled the goods through the what's it called? You have data. Have you used this data? Because from all the things said here, I don't think they have. They said they came and put a sticker, sealed off the place and said, come to FOU in Ikeja. That's all. Major car dealers. So how do you wake up one morning and go to your office and the next day shut because the custom says, or sealed because they say you smuggled cars? And this generalization of everybody brings to play what we've been talking about all day, the rule of law. You have the portal, people who pay, people buy cars every day from different dealers. So let's do the right thing, put the proper processes in place, and let's stop all these ad hoc ways of trying to antagonize businessmen, all in the name of generating revenue. That's the way I see it.
Right, thank you very much for that one. We have a few more minutes to wrap up. Our last story. Okay, we don't have time for any more stories.
Let's just take some comments. Kunle from Ikeja says, on the issue of Sowore, in a situation where there is no separation of power in the 3 tiers of government, this is what obtains. The executive should, however, note that the precedent being laid is a recipe for anarchy. If the table is turned someday soon, I hope they won't cry foul.
And Tony here says, good morning. Concerning the Kaduna slave house, parents need to be educated. Some parents willingly take their wayward children to these religious houses because they feel such children can be set straight there. These religious houses are all over the place.
Also because they have no choice.
And then we have this one from Lady Ro, who says, I think that a nation like ours that is rich in resources ought to hold our leaders accountable as to making gainful use of these resources in order to better the life of the citizens and our children. We have enough resources for our population. Let's not be lazy. Thank you so much to Lady Ro and everyone who sent in comments this morning. A big thanks to our analyst, Tunde at Big Hopes on Twitter. We thank you, Wade at Wink Nigeria on Twitter, and of course, Ugo at Ugo Dre on Twitter. Lagos go on a break now at 8:15. We'll be back here for the locker room 981, where we talk sports. Good morning.
The stories,
Thank you.
the news.